Hello and welcome to the second episode of Classic Motorsport Podcasts. Today it's a story of a Formula One race that went down for all the wrong reasons, and that is the 1975 Spanish Grand Prix. The 1975 Spanish Grand Prix was race 4 of 15 in the 1975 Formula One World Championship, but a lot of people say it's race 4 of 14. Thing is, nobody knew at the time that the Canadian Grand Prix would be cancelled, which was cancelled later on in the year. It was one of the most controversial and tragic weekends in the sport's history. I'll get to that bit in a moment. 21st Spanish Grand Prix since the race was first held in 1913, fourth and last Grand Prix held in the Montjuic Street Circuit. The first one of those was 1969, where it was quite controversial when Jochen Rindt and Graham Hill had their rear aerofoils on their Lotuses collapsed, with Rindt suffering a broken nose and Hill walking away unscathed. 1971, a walk away for Jackie Stewart. 1973, a drive to end for Emerson Fittipaldi to victory, but this race, 1975, will be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Right from the start of the weekend, the drivers who were members of the GPDA, which is known as the Grand Prix Drivers Association, were fuming. The reason why they were fuming is because the barriers were not bolted together properly. The barriers then, as they still are now on some temporary circuits, like Montjuic Park was, were guardrails. Some temporary tracks like Monaco still have guardrails, and with these guardrails you need to get a bolt along with a screwdriver, maybe a drill, to bolt them up properly. However, these barriers were not done properly. Because of the barriers not being bolted together, the drivers went on strike. Most of the sport's major drivers refused to take part in practice on Friday. Jackie Hicks, who was not a member of the GPDA, was one of the few drivers that did practice on Friday. After practice, track staff worked overnight from Friday into Saturday morning, even just as late as minutes before final practice, to make sure everything would be fixed in time for the qualifying on Saturday. Some teams sent out mechanics to help fixing so that it could be done quicker and easier. The drivers still not convinced, but the race organisers threatened legal action if no race was run. There's no defence in a court of law on that. This, and there was rumours that the Guardia Civil, which is effectively Spanish police, would seize the cars which were in a paddock which was at Montjuic Stadium. That forced the drivers to call off the strike. And the stadium they were in was used for the 1992 Summer Olympics, which I have to say and also for athletics as well. I have to say, having a well-known sports stadium next to a racing track, quite odd to have. However, because the Guardia Civil would seize the cars, the drivers were forced to call off the strike. One driver that was not happy was Emerson Fittipaldi, who was the defending world champion. He was still fuming. He did a minimum of 3 laps as required, the rules at that time, at a very slow pace, and pulled into pits. More work on the barriers were done from Saturday night and Sunday. On Sunday morning, Fittipaldi announced he would not race and went back home to Sao Paulo, Brazil. Also during that morning, Ken Tyrrell, boss of the Tyrrell team, along with his designer Derek Gardner, went onto the circuit with spanners to make sure barriers should be bolted together. It was the 2 Ferraris on the front row with Lauda on pole with Ferguson alongside, Hunt and Mario Andretti on the second row, Hunt driving for Esquiff, Andretti driving for Parnelli. Yes, there was an American team in F1 at the time. Vittorio Van Beer 5th on the grid in a march, with John Watson 6th for Surtees. And the race was effectively one of the most controversial in the history of Formula One. The glory of the Prix would not last long. At the start, Vittorio Vanber's march tangled with Andretti's Parnelli. Andretti's car hit the back of Lauda, sending him into Regazzoni. Lauda was out immediately. Regazzoni took his car to the garage where repairs were made and sent back out. Andretti took the lead ahead of Hunt, and most of the cars got through unscathed when they completed their first lap. Patrick Prix retired on the first lap because of suspension damage. Wilson Fittipaldi in the Vittorio Mazzario, Fittipaldi in his own Copsu car and Mazzario in the Williams withdrew in protest. And at the end of the first lap, Hunt led. Shockingly, Andretti kept going and was running second. John Watson was third in the 30s. Wolf Stommelin, driving the Embassy Hill, was in fourth. Vanberg fifth and Pace sixth. It was the first race that Embassy Hill raced as a constructor, when the designer Andy Smallman left Lola full-time to join Embassy Hill, which meant the Loyalty 371 was renamed the Hill GX1. On lap 4, the engine in Jody Scheckter's Tyrrell, which had a Ford Cosworth engine, blew and dumped oil on the track, causing Alan Jones, who was driving a Privateer Hesketh, and Mark Donoghue, driving for Penske, to crash. On lap 7, James Hunt crashed on the oil that was laid by Scheckter. The top three have become Andretti in the Parnelli, Watson in the 30s, and Stommelin in the Hill. Watson's car suffered from vibrations and also retired and dropped right back at a slow pace. Andretti's rear suspension only lasted until lap 16, where it failed, causing him to crash out of the lead. During that time, Jean-Pierre Jarier in the Shadow and Bamber's March stopped to change tyres. During that time, Tom Price's Shadow and Tony Bryce in the Williams tangled. Bryce was filling in for Jacques Lafitte, who was attending an F2 race. And because of the tangle, Price retired, but Bryce continued. Stommelin was now leading for Embassy Hill, followed by Course Pace in the Brabham, Ronnie Peterson in the Lotus, Joachim Mars in the McLaren, and Jackie Hicks in the Lotus. On lap 24, Peterson was out after he tangled with Francois Migo's Hill car while trying to lap the Frenchman. Migo continued, but Peterson was out of the race. On lap 25, disastrous track for Wolf Stommelin. When he was leading, the rear ring on his Embassy Hill broke, sending him into the barriers. The Embassy Hill team were working on the rear ring prior to the race. The car bounced off and back into the road, hitting the barrier across the way and flying over the barrier. Whilst trying to avoid Stommelin as he crossed the track, Pace crashed as well. Because of Stommelin's flying car, 4 people sadly lost their lives. Fireman Joachim Peanuts Morena, spectator Andres was thrown in the water, and 2 photojournalists, Mario De Royer and Antonio Fontbay. Stommelin himself suffered a broken leg, a broken wrist, and 2 cracked ribs. The race continued for 4 more laps, during which Mass passed Dix for the lead, and the race was halted on lap 29, and the race only lasted 42 minutes, with Mars declared winner, the only time in his career. X second is the best result of the season before he quit the team mid-season. Jean-Pierre Jarier crossed the line in third, with Reutemann fourth, Bamber fifth, and Lelo Bardi sixth, and the only female in Formula 1 history to get the points. With the race stopped before 3/4 of the scheduled race distance, half points were awarded. for the first time in Formula 1 history. After the race, Stewart and Jarier had overtaken a portion of track covered by a yellow flag. Jarier was given a 60-second penalty that relegated him to fourth. That meant Carlos Reutemann was shifted out to third, so the final results were Mass ahead of Vicks by 1.1 seconds, Reutemann third, a lap down, Jarier fourth, a lap down, Brambilla fifth, a lap down, Lola Vardy sixth, the only female to get a point in history, 2 laps down, with 2 cars finishing, which was Tony Price's Williams and John Watson's Surtees, with 2 non-classifiers. Clavix only completed 4 laps down, and Francois Amigos Hill, who was 11 laps down. Immediately after the race, questions arose of safety. So the final round in Monaco, cars were supposed to be 20, reduced to 18, and they never went to Montjuic Park again. They went to Hawama instead, where they went to in odd number years originally, but they went there permanently from 1976 until it was dropped in 1981. Could it have been avoided? Yeah. But the Spanish Grand Prix promoters and the police at the time were greedy and cared about themselves at the time. Sadly, 4 of those people lost their lives. Ross Domlin would race in F1 again, but would sadly lose his life in 1983 at Riverside, once again caused by a rear wing failure. Joachim Rass's only win of his career, where he would later become a broadcaster. Jack Dix's second place was the best of the year before he quit the team mid-season because of poor performance. Carlos Reutemann's third place was the best result up till that point, and then would later win at the Nürburgring. Jarier's fourth place was the best he managed all season. Brambilla's fifth place was the best he had before he went on to win in Austria. Lola Vardy's sixth place was the best result she ever had, and the best